If you are over 50 and your elbow hurts after tennis, your technique is probably fine. Your racket is the problem. Most seniors are playing frames built for explosive 20-somethings with fast hands and fearless joints. Tennis brands love to talk about power and spin because that is what sells. What they do not tell you is that the same racket hyped for tour-level acceleration can quietly wreck your elbow, your shoulder, and your enjoyment of the game, one miss hit at a time. You do not feel it after one match. You feel it 3 weeks later, when the soreness stops going away between sessions, and you start wondering if it is just age catching up with you. Sometimes it is. But more often than people want to admit, it is the racket sitting in their bag. This is not about buying more power. It is about buying less punishment. Most players over 60 are checking the wrong numbers before they buy, looking at spin potential and power ratings while ignoring the 4 specs that actually determine whether their arm survives a full season: stiffness, head size, weight distribution, and string pattern. Get those 4 right and tennis stops hurting. Get them wrong and the soreness never fully goes away between sessions. The number 1 pick on this list checks all 4 better than anything else on the market right now. Let us start from the bottom. Number 5 is the Babolat Boost Drive, and it is the gentle entry point, exactly what it sounds like. The first racket on this list that immediately takes the fight out of your swing. Lightweight, graphite built, with a generously sized head that does not demand a strong shoulder behind every shot. If you are starting to notice your arm complaining after matches, but you are not ready for a major equipment overhaul, this is where that conversation should start. Its open string pattern means power comes without much effort, and mishits do not punish you the way they used to with a stiffer, smaller-headed frame. You can feel the difference the very first time you swing it. There is no sense that you have to time the ball perfectly just to get it back with any depth. This is not the most advanced racket on the list, and it does not need to be. It is the one that tells you quietly that something better is possible. Think of it as the racket equivalent of finally swapping out shoes that never actually fit. You do not realize how much tension you were carrying until it is gone, and the Boost Drive is often the first racket that makes that click for older players coming back from a layoff or stepping down from a heavier, stiffer frame. It is also a smart pick if budget matters, because Babolat did not try to chase a premium price tag here. They built a frame that does the job seniors actually need without charging seniors for technology they will never use. That is rare in this market, and it deserves credit. A lot of senior players assume the cheaper frame must be the compromise, but here the price has more to do with simpler cosmetics and marketing spend than anything that actually affects how the racket plays for you. Number 4 is the Yonex Ezone 105, and this is the confidence builder. Yonex's isometric head shape gives you a sweet spot that is noticeably bigger than the raw numbers alone suggest, and that is where things start getting genuinely useful for doubles players and weekend warriors. You are not working harder to push the ball deep into the court. The racket is doing that for you. That matters more than people realize, because the moment a player starts swinging harder to compensate for a racket that is not helping them, that is the moment shoulders and elbows start barking. The Ezone 105 removes that temptation entirely. It is controlled enough not to feel like a beginner's frame, but forgiving enough that rallies stay alive longer, which is exactly what you want if you are playing doubles and need depth without overextending your shot. It is not flashy. It does not have a tour pro's face plastered across the marketing. It is just smart, and for most recreational competitors over 60, smart beats flashy every single time. The kind of player who benefits most here is not chasing winners. They are chasing consistency. And consistency is exactly what this frame delivers without asking much of your body in return. It is the kind of racket you stop thinking about once you are using it, which is the highest compliment equipment can earn. Players coming from heavier, head-heavy frames often notice the Ezone 105 first at the net, where its balance makes split-step reactions and quick volleys feel far less demanding on aging reflexes. It is the kind of detail you will not see on a spec sheet, but you will notice it scrambling to cover the middle in doubles. And for senior players who spend most of their time in doubles, that net presence is worth more than any spin rating printed on the side of the frame. Number 3 is the Prince Phantom in the 100X or the 107G, depending on how much head size you want, and this is the all-day comfort option. The name says it all. This is the frame for players who are not just playing once a week. They are out there 3 or 4 times a week, sometimes more, and they need a racket that will not punish them for showing up that often. The Phantom line runs a genuinely low stiffness rating, around 60 or below, with a thin, flexible beam that absorbs shock instead of bouncing it back into your arm. The real win is what happens over a season, not just one set. Less shoulder fatigue, less elbow stress, fewer nagging aches that quietly convince players to play less tennis, not more. The 107G specifically leans into a bigger head for players with a slower swing, while the 100X keeps a bit more control for sharper timing. So there is flexibility within the line depending on where you land on the spectrum between power and precision. Either way, this is the racket that keeps you walking onto the court without hesitation, match after match, year after year, because it never makes you pay a physical price for being out there as often as you want to be. Players who grew up on older, thinner beamed rackets tend to gravitate toward the Phantom line specifically because it echoes that classic feel without dragging along the harshness those older frames were known for. It gives back the feel they remember, minus the punishment their joints no longer want to absorb. Senior players who have tried multiple arm-friendly frames and found them too soft or too powerless consistently land on the Phantom as the frame that closes that gap. Enough forgiveness to protect the arm, enough feedback through the handle to keep experienced players feeling connected to their shots. Number 2 is the head gravity, and the MP or Tour versions earn the title of Sweet Spot Specialist for a reason. This is where forgiveness becomes almost the entire selling point. Head built the gravity line around a soft feel and a deliberately generous sweet spot, and the shock absorption on off-center contact is genuinely impressive for a racket that still has real spin potential. That matters because timing changes as we age. It is not a flaw, it is just physics and reflexes shifting over decades of life, and pretending otherwise does not help anyone. Least of all the players still being sold a stiff, small-headed frame built for someone half their age. The gravity does not pretend. It is built around the reality that mishits happen more often than they used to, and instead of punishing that with twisting and shock through your arm, it absorbs the mistake and keeps the ball in play. For players whose hands are not quite as sharp as they were at 30, this racket quietly closes that gap better than almost anything else on this list. And it does it without feeling like a watered down or beginner level frame. You still get real depth, real spin when you want it, and a connected feel at net. It just does not make you earn every one of those things through perfect contact. That balance between forgiveness and genuine performance is exactly why so many senior players who still compete in league matches keep coming back to this frame instead of downgrading further. It proves you do not have to trade ambition for comfort. You just have to pick a frame that is honest about what your body needs now. The gravity also rewards players who have refined their game over decades, players who know exactly where they want the ball to go and just need a frame that stops fighting them on the way there. For that type of senior player, the gravity is less of a concession and more of an upgrade. Which brings us to number 1, The Wilson Clash 108, the senior gold standard. And the reason it earns that title is not because it does one thing exceptionally well. It is because it checks every single box on our 4 criteria framework better than anything else we have covered. The Clash carries one of the lowest stiffness ratings on the market, in the mid-50s, thanks to a unique carbon fiber mapping that lets the frame flex without losing its pop. That means vibration stays away from your joints in a way that is genuinely noticeable from your very first swing, not some marginal improvement you have to squint to feel. The 108 head size gives you a sweet spot that turns mishits into manageable shots instead of complete disasters, which matters enormously once your timing is not what it used to be. It is light enough to swing without strength you might not have any more, and the open 16x19 string pattern generates pace without forcing you to muscle through your swing. Put those 4 things together and you get a racket that requires less effort on every shot, protects your arm match after match, and genuinely makes tennis feel easier again. This is the frame most likely to keep a player in their 60s, 70s, or beyond on the court for years, instead of forcing an early retirement because the equipment never adapted to the body using it. It is not the cheapest option here, and it will not be for every single player. But for the specific problem this list is solving, nothing else checks as many boxes as well as the Clash does. The only real trade-off worth mentioning is stability against heavy pace, since that flexible frame can get pushed around a little against a hard-hitting opponent. But for the player this list is built for, that is a minor cost next to everything the Clash gives back to your arm. Here's the bigger truth sitting underneath all 5 of these rackets. Most players over 60 do not need more power. They do not need more spin. Marketing departments want you to believe otherwise, because power and spin are easy things to put in bold letters on a box. What you actually need is less shock traveling into your joints, bigger forgiveness when your timing is not perfect, easier swings that do not require young adult strength, and reduced effort on every shot. That is not a compromise. That is the smarter way to play tennis once your body has different needs than it did decades ago. And the sooner a player accepts that, the sooner the soreness starts disappearing from their week. So ask yourself before your next purchase, are you buying a racket because of who swings it on a tour court, or because of what it actually does for your body on your court? Only one of those keeps you playing happily into your 70s. Now I want to hear from you. Which racket do you think genuinely protects your arm? And which one left your elbow filing a complaint the next morning? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one.